because this is a challenge. Honolulu Bay, Maui, all the way to Tahiti. 2,500 miles of sailing, without instruments. Crossing the two biggest wind systems, northeast trade and southeast trade, and where they collide with the equator with direct heating, you have a cloudiest place on Earth called doldrums, or the intertropical convergence zone scientifically. Very, very difficult trip when you're sailing by the stars, and the base of clouds is 200, tops of 40,000. Extraordinary voyage. Miles never done this before, and not an easy trip. Made a lot of mistakes. One of the issues that Mao recognized from the very beginning was that the crew wasn't together. That the crew could be defined as two different separate groups. One was the science group that had its mission, its goals, and its strategies to make sure that we can document and record and tell the story of the great voyages of Polynesians to dispel and dispute Thor Heyerdahl and anthropologists like Andrew Sharp said Polynesians weren't intelligent enough to sail more than 100 miles from land without instruments. Therefore, the arrival in Hawaii was an accident by mistake, even though it goes against all of our traditions. The other side of the community was disappointed. Hokulea was told. Hokulea was told to heed. Hokulea was theirs. And that they were afraid that that and other things in the past were going to get taken away. And these two communities did not come together. Mao was worried. The day of the departure, May 1st, 1976, Honolulu Bay, Maui, during a ceremony, Hawaiian ceremony, he brings in a native speaker from his island, and he speaks in his native tongue. And he says a number of things. But he says to the crew, today you go to sea. Any problems that you have on the land, you leave it on the land. Today, Hokulea is your mother, you take care of her. And I am your father. Listen to my words, you see the island of the sea. Today, you take care of each other. And, I think everybody heard it. I think everybody intellectually understood. But in the end, we couldn't have done. Old slide. This is 3 days out of Honolulu Bay, Maui, 17 people on board, heavily laden, extraordinary voyage. Make a long story short. Mao found to eat. 31 days later. That's the arrival in Papete. I was so lucky because I was selected somehow to be on the return trip, the second crew. So my crew flew to Tahiti, and true story. We were running around in these trees over here trying to see the canoe because there were 17,000 Tahitians at the beach. That's more than half the population. Everything was changing. The native people speaking native language. The people that remember their genealogy as great canoes, great captains, great navigators, but they don't have a canoe. So those stories over time became more and more mythical and less believable. When Hokulea arrived in Papete Harbor, it was their canoe. It embraced their traditions, and it was our family, our ancestral family, and their children. This slide, I was there. So many children got on the back end of Hokulea that they actually sunk the hull. So we are like politely in English telling them, can you please get off? We got to take a canoe home. Everything was changing. It was huge. It was an extraordinary feat of success. Hokulea had to find this place. If it didn't, if it failed, I don't think our community would have given us a second chance. If it failed, it would have been the story of Hawaiians. Failure. Mao was the one who made it happen. This is not an easy story. It's not always about success. But you're here to tell you the truth. My lens. I never saw Mao in Tahiti. He's supposed to come back with us. Our navigator, our teacher. I look forward to all of that. He was taken into hiding in Papua. They never saw him. He was secretly put in an airlift jet and flown to Fiji, where he got a series of freighters to work backwards on the sample. He left us with an 8-track cassette tape that he recorded and said many things. But this part of that story that I'll tell you, and don't get me wrong, those sailors that took Auckland to Tahiti were extraordinary. First voyage in 600 years, first to go. Community believed they could do it, but they did. But it was an issue of taking care of each other. One single failure amongst all the success. Mao on that cassette tape said, first crew no good, maybe the second crew is no good too. I'm going to go home, chemo, send my clothes to my island. Nobody come look for me, never find me. Haunting words, scary words. I was the youngest, or one of the youngest in the crew, and probably clearly the most immature. And probably clearly maybe the one who was the most fearful. That the great dream of voyaging could only take place if I felt that I was very safe. And safety meant leadership and a leader alone. And in the immaturity, I learned the hard lesson of being careful what you say, because you're going to own your words. And I started in that process of deferring blame to others because of my couldn't admit fear, and started talking about the issue of quitting. They ain't good enough anymore. Everybody else is fault. And it was one of our elders by the name of Wally Foyces, a big wave rider in Hawaii, who was down in Tahiti, working on the damages on the whole there, get it ready for the voyage back. Here's me talking and saying the word quitting. Finds me in the youth hospital in Papua, comes up around his shirt, and he's crying, pulls me to his face, says, "Boy, don't you ever talk about quitting. You get on that canoe, you take it home, it's your time." That was an extraordinary story. It's your time. Well, I did get on board, and this is us. Sailing home. 23 days. 7:31. Crew 13, all young. No media, no books being written, no science stuff, and it's just this. What it was freedom of learning. It was an extraordinary voyage. Our lives changed in the wake of our ancestors. And we arrived at home, and we were lucky to be there. The problem, as powerful as visionaries were like Herb and others in the early days, nobody had a picture or a destination for the future booklet. That it was seen as part of Voyage Life's centennial contribution to the United States in 1976. And then no other journeys we planned. For us guys, excuse me, that wasn't okay. Us guys who finally find ourselves a rich place, a free place on the ocean, to know who we are, to consider not sailing, would mean to go back, to forget it. But we didn't know how to do it in hindsight. We planned the second voyage.